Oh god. No. No! I figured the best place to put this series to rest would be at a bar, because Halo fanatics are definitely going to need a drink after this. Episode 7 Inheritance starts with a Quan flashback, telling the viewers that it's going to be a Quan episode, so go ahead and get your groans out now. The flashback isn't really important. We get to see Quan fight with her father about the war, and that's all you really need to know. Present day Quan has thankfully not killed Soren, but she did steal his dune buggy and goes driving off into a sandstorm where she gets kidnapped. Why she thought it was a smart idea to stop for these desert people, I have no idea. She wakes up in the middle of the desert tribe and immediately asks them what they told her father. The leader tells her she can't tell Quan because she isn't ready. Her rage blinds her. So this might be the writer's way of trying to justify her behavior to everyone so far, but she's still a jerk. All the people she's interacted with so far have been trying to help her to varying degrees of success, so in my opinion, she shouldn't be treating anyone, especially not Soren, the way she has. I get they were trying to make this angry, vengeful character similar to Ellie in The Last of Us 2 or Eren Yeager in Attack on Titan. But the difference between them and Quan is that we got to know them and see more emotions than just anger. We didn't even get to experience Quan mourn her father. That would have made her much more tolerable. Everyone can relate to loss in some way and the anger that follows. Anyway, we find out that these people are a tribe of witches, and the head witch lady tells Quan that if she really wants to know what her father knew, she has to pass a trial. So Quan drinks something that makes her faint, and when she wakes up, Master Chief is guiding her through the desert to a tent. Wreath appears, acting kind of like a ringleader, introducing Quan as the next contestant for a fight against Master Chief. She tries using rocks, her fist, and pretty much anything she can get her hands on, but of course she loses. And even death can't save her because she wakes up just to fight him again. It's so terrible. I can't feel any sympathy during moments when Quan is in pain. I should not have enjoyed watching Chief kill her as much as I did. After getting killed over and over, Quan finally gives up and she somehow passes the trial. She wakes up in the desert again during the nighttime. John guides her to a well where she can meet her ancestors and then her father. Jin tells Quan that she needs to find the well because it's a portal fueled by Madrigal and she's its protector. Her father tells her to go where it all started to begin to put the pieces together. Quan wakes up for real this time and starts heading toward the outpost. When we finally catch up with Soren, he's on rubble having a party? Very jarring compared to the last time we saw him, but okay. He's telling war stories about his time as a pirate when his partner, Squirrel, whom we are just meeting, is apparently upset with Soren because he was looking after Quan, who has a huge bounty, and he didn't tell anyone. He makes a fuss at the party before storming off. So of course Soren has to check him. He corners Squirrel on the elevator and tells Squirrel that he's neglected him and he wants to hear his idea. Squirrel tells him about this heist he's been planning on a UNSC freighter, so Soren goes along with it. But just as they are leaving the freighter, Soren lowers a forklift onto Squirrel's foot and tells him not to forget who's in charge. At first I was worried that they completely screwed up his character, which made the payoff with the forklift even sweeter. Soren might be the only other consistent character outside of Halsey that I feel like I actually understand. He likes money, he likes power to an extent, and he keeps his promises. He's a fairly good guy. After the heist is over, Soren goes home to talk to his wife, who tells him Quan is alive because her bounty just tripled. Soren sighs before the scene fades out. Quan arrives back at her house in the outpost and finds notes that her father wrote to her great-grandfather about the well. As she's leaving the house, she runs into Soren, who tells Quan that he was tracking her using satellites, so Venture probably isn't far behind. And as if on cue, Venture and his small army appear. Quan and Soren go to hide and come up with a plan to blow up the outpost with gas lines. The main gas valve is turned off, so Quan clears out a console with a secret tunnel to get there. As she throws a small case out of the console, Soren just so happens to open the case and find a ton of deuterium. Isn't that lucky? Quan and Soren split up, with Quan heading to the gas valve and Soren killing people in her way. The fight sequence isn't the coolest, but it's still fun to see Soren wreck a bunch of people. The best part of the fight is that Quan picks up a plasma grenade left over from episode 1 and sticks it on one of the mercenaries. Soren gets cornered by Venture, who shoots him in the chest, which seems like a mortal wound at the time, so Quan tries to find a way to save him and happens upon Master Chief's loaded assault rifle. I'm not sure why it was discarded if it was loaded, but we'll move on. Quan shoots the open gas valve and starts running for the bunker. Thankfully, Soren stops playing dead and runs into the bunker before everything gets blown to Kingdom Come. We cut to the witches, who are watching all of this somehow. They nod with approval before walking away. The episode wraps with Soren and Quan parting ways for the final time this season. Soren has his money and Quan has a new objective. This was a surprisingly nice moment between the two characters since Quan was nice this time around. Episode 8, Allegiance, starts with John back in the bathroom again with a towel this time, staring into a mirror like a crazy person. We see Mackie doing the same thing, so maybe they're looking at each other. John gets dressed and goes to Mackie's room with a coat for her so they can leave the facility. I'm not sure why he brought the coat since it didn't look cold outside and she never puts the hood up, so it's not like she's hiding her face. Anyway, they go on a walk through the city and talk about their experiences on the ring. Gotta mention that the city looked gorgeous in this scene. It was a nice palate cleanser compared to the deserts and battlefields that we've been on so far. The Admiral can see them on their surveillance cameras and says, "Look at them, frolicking in the park. Master Chief has changed," with disgust. This line is unintentionally more funny than it was intended to be because that is genuinely how some people feel about John right now. Back to John and Mackie. Mackie tells John about the Covenant prophecy where once the ring is activated, the Covenant ascends while everything else is cleansed. John tells her that humans are worth protecting, so he has to stop that from happening. Then John gets pulled away by some soldiers that guide him to the war room. Everyone is panicking because 3 planets have been burned to cinders by the Covenant. When I first saw this scene, I thought the Covenant had built a Death Star or something to achieve this and were going to keep destroying planets. It's never explained what this weapon is or why the Covenant hadn't used it until then. It makes me question why they need the ring in the first place, other than to maybe save time. Anyway, John tells Captain Keyes and the Admiral that he should let Mackie try to locate the Covenant using the artifact and limit the possible damage. They don't put up much of a fight before agreeing. In the next few scenes, we see Riz and Vanek try to learn more about a Covenant dropship, and Kai is using her rehab to win money by having people bet on the object she can lift. I like the scene where Kai is showing off and connecting with other UNSC soldiers, but 3 planets were literally just ravaged by fire. I think the soldiers have better things to do right now. Maybe if we saw Kai before finding out the news, it wouldn't have felt so odd. Going back to John, he visits Mackie's room again, telling the guards that they were leave for the day. Y'all know this is trouble. Then after John walks into the room, he brings Mackie a new copy of the book she's been holding on to. I'm not sure how he knows about the book, but this is the nail in the coffin. He butters her up with their favorite book and then the guards are gone. Y'all know Master Chief's had to be on his way. We see them undress and start touching each other's scars, because that's really hot. Then we thankfully cut away, only to see Cortana was watching the whole time. If I hadn't spent so much time with Master Chief, the scene probably wouldn't have bothered me as much as it did. But the writers know the fans of the series are going to watch the show, or at least try it. They know we didn't want to see Master Chief's face, let alone his ass, and now we have to live with the thought of him having sex with a woman that he's known for maybe a week at most, and is also a part of the Covenant? I can't defend any of that. They knowingly did all this. Like I said before, if he had to have a love interest, it should have never been Mackie. Kai, a sister-in-arms and childhood friend, has been there the whole time. I honestly would have even accepted Cortana. This just doesn't make sense. I get that they're trying to make a bridge between the Covenant and the humans, but that bridge exists, and he's called the Arbiter. He's fantastic, and Chief doesn't have to have sex with him. Anyway, after Mackie got her ankles knocked loose, she is apparently a changed woman and decides to rip out her energy nail. So if you didn't cringe at the sex, you might have cringed at this. They were determined. We cut back to Halsey's apartment where Captain Keyes comes to deliver the news that Halsey needs to be off planet by noon. Halsey gets upset asking about their deal, which sounded like it only benefited her, but Captain Keyes says that all bets are off and she has to go. Halsey isn't going down without a fight though. She uses the contact made from Miranda's eye scan assigned to the UNSC system to talk to Mackie. She tries to convince Mackie that she should stop the humans from getting both keystones because if they do, they'll destroy themselves, which is probably likely. Halsey thinks she should get the keystone instead. She also kind of confesses to watching John and Mackie do it when she says she's enjoyed watching their relationship grow. Mackie says Halsey only wants to become a god and she's not going to help her do it. Halsey doesn't skip a beat moving to plan B, which is to call Silver Team. While Riz, Vanek, and Kai suit up, she tells them that the UNSC has been compromised and that they need to deliver John, Mackie, and the artifact to her ship. Halsey also notices that Kai's pellet is gone, so she makes a private channel with Riz and Vanek, telling them that the Kai's been compromised as well. So when Kai takes off her helmet to talk with Riz and Vanek about Halsey's probable lies, they knock her out. Another great scene for the Halsey highlight reel. She is ruthless, and I love it. John starts to escort Mackie to the test room, and Miranda is still working on cleaning up the Covenant recording instead of prepping for the test, for some reason. As John gets closer, Cortana tells him to stop because he's walking to a trap. John tells Mackie to go find help while he tries to talk with Riz and Vanek. As this is happening, Miranda finally gets a clear signal from the recording and finds out that Mackie is the one that attacked the UNSC ship. She runs to the test room, which she should have been at the whole time, to stop Mackie from touching the artifact. So John's talk falls apart and he starts fighting with Riz and Vanek, both of whom are using what looks like lethal force, which is confusing because Halsey wants John alive. This fight scene is actually pretty interesting though, even though there is a bit of confusion with the Spartans. Kai breaks out of her bonds in the bathroom of all places and makes her way to help Chief as he's getting pummeled. As the fight continues, Mackie runs into a UNSC soldier and tries to get help but is instead dragged to the test room. Just as Mackie arrives, she sees Miranda tell the Admiral that Mackie is the Covenant spy and that she destroyed the missing UNSC ship. The guard holding Mackie throws her to the ground and then brutally burns her for some reason. She didn't have any weapons and was already on the ground not resisting, so why did you need to burn her? After getting some new scars to show John, Mackie tells them that they will all pay and send Haley, and then jumps for the artifact. A wave of energy goes through the facility, pushing everyone to the ground, including John and Silverteen. John wakes up on the ring to Mackie telling him goodbye as the episode ends. These two episodes alone gave me crazy whiplash. We had a Quan-focused episode, which everyone was dreading, but was quickly dethroned by Master Chief having sex. This was the worst way to close out the season, and thankfully we get back on the gas in the final episode, Transcendence. John wakes up with the building in shambles. He makes his way to the test room where Miranda tells him that Mackie is left with the artifact. John then goes back to the room where he was fighting with Riz and Vanek, which he probably should have settled the situation before leaving, because when he arrives, he sees Riz pointing a gun at Kai's head. John tries to calm the situation by telling Riz and Vanek about all the traumatic things that Halsey's done to them. Which, surprise, it doesn't work. Just before Riz pulls the trigger, Captain Keyes walks in and confirms that Halsey kidnapped them and that he helped her. Riz and Vanek are definitely hurt by this news, but it doesn't take them long for them to clear their minds for the new mission. The Silver Team have to stop Mackie from leaving the UNSC hangar with the dropship, and Kai is going to stop Halsey from escaping on her own ship. John, Riz, and Vanek are not even close to stopping Mackie from taking off, but Kai does have some hope in catching Halsey. UNSC soldiers have their guns trained on Halsey's ship as Kai sprints down the runway and jumps into the air, landing on Halsey's Pelican just as it lifts off. Kai shoots out one of the engines before breaching and then immediately takes her helmet off. She screams at Halsey, asking her what her real name is. I guess it makes sense to question this, but I'd be more concerned about where my family is. That's just me. As Kai screams at Halsey, the creepy assistant hits Kai over the head with a pipe, which only makes her angry. I kind of wish I knocked her out though, so she would learn not to take off her helmet in combat. I get it. You want Halsey to look into your eyes as she begs for mercy, but you know she doesn't fight fair. Anyway, creepy assistant pays for his assault with his life as he's thrown into the ceiling, breaking his neck. I do find it a little funny that when Kai turns around to look at him, he quietly pleads, "Kai." It was that moment he knew that he messed up. As Kai is killing Aiden, Halsey scurries away into his escape pod, leaving Kai in a sinking ship. The Silver Team run out just in time to see Kai's ship hit the ground, exploding on impact. But it's fine because Kai climbs out of the wreckage unscathed. The intro cuts in before transitioning us back inside the UNSC base. John and Miranda discover that Halsey has had contact with Mackie before she stole the artifact, which doesn't mean much anymore. Then they start focusing on finding the Covenant planet and the Aspro system. John is able to use clues that Mackie left in their conversation to figure out where the planet is. The Admiral wants to send Marines, but John says, "Come on, get real." Now the Silver Team get ready to go on their space voyage. As the Silver Team board their Pelican, Kai asks Riz and Vanek if they were really going to shoot her. Both of them say absolutely. Kai acts surprised, but when Vanek asks her the same question, she says, "I would have shot you guys too, but at least I feel bad about it." Why didn't you have more of this in the show? I love Silver Team and how they joke with each other, and we get far too few moments like this. It would have helped build the tension as Halsey tried to tear Silver Team apart. Speaking of, Halsey's escape pod crashes somewhere not too far from the UNSC base, so her efforts to run are futile because she gets caught pretty quickly. Halsey gets brought back to the UNSC to pay for her crimes, and Miranda comes to her holding cell to tell her that the military tribunal has decided to execute her. Halsey doesn't even falter and tells Miranda that she needs to let go of the mother she knew. On Aspro, we see that Mackie has arrived at the artifact and is greeted by the Hierarchs. One of the Hierarchs asks, "What happened with the demon? I thought you were bringing us his head." If only they knew what her and the demon were doing just hours ago. The jokes write themselves. The Hierarchs are pleased that she at least delivered the artifact, allowing them to have the opportunity to make the great journey. Mackie asks if she can go with them, and they say, sure, why not? Silver Team is making their way to Aspro, but while things are quiet, John asks Cortana why she never took over his body. She tells him that even though that was her purpose, she wanted to learn more about him and being human. Also, taking over his body would erase John's consciousness. Now it's a curious little fact we didn't know until now. Suddenly, the stars around them disappear, plunging them into darkness. Cortana tries to make a path for John, but her signal somehow cuts out, so John uses his instincts to navigate the rest of the way. We get back to Aspro as Mackie is getting ready for the ceremony. A couple of Hierarchs are nearby, talking, and one of them asks, "We aren't actually going to take her with us, right?" The other says, "Nah, she's going to die with the rest of the humans." The drama continues at the UNSC base, where Miranda is called back to Halsey's holding cell just moments after she tells her she's going to die. Well, like a prophecy, Miranda's words have come true. She comes into the room to see Halsey's having a seizure. Medics are trying to stabilize her, explaining that she starts seizing after a nosebleed. Miranda's face fills with shock and then dread before jumping at Halsey and screaming, "Where is she?" The Admiral, who feels like she's been teleporting the last few episodes, appears again to pull Miranda away, telling her to let them take care of her mother. Miranda responds saying, "She's not my mother." Halsey was a clone! When did she make the switch? Where is she now? What is her plan? Halsey keeps you on your toes, even in death. Back in Aspro, Silver Team descends to the surface and begins to stealth kill the grunt guards as they press forward. As Silver Team moves, the Covenant joins the Keystone, stunning both Mackie and John. John stumbles out of cover, alerting one of the guards, causing the alarm to sound. The Hierarchs think that Mackie summoned him, she denies it, they move on, and no one ever mentions it again. The Zealots are sent out to fight, which is pretty cool. Cortana detects hundreds of Covenant soldiers are coming to join them. Now please welcome the best fight scene of the season. This is one of the most interesting interpretations of Halo's firefight that I've seen yet. They escape between the lines of having a video game aesthetic and realism. Master Chief is killing Zealots left and right when Riz tries to take on the brute Atriox, who we previously saw stealing the big keystone, so they already know a bit of drama is on the field. She tries to hit him with a jump kick but fails, instead getting punished. Master Chief switches places with Riz, but the fight doesn't get any easier. Now Master Chief is getting knocked around, so Mackie steps up to save him by touching the keystone. The majority of the Covenant forces are blown away by the blast. Master Chief is mentally blown all the way back to the ring, where he sees Mackie again. As Mackie tells John that he can still join her on the great journey, a spot of blood erupts near her stomach and the illusion fades. Chief wakes up to Mackie dead and Kai holding the smoking gun. The map of the ring was left incomplete, and now the Covenant need Master Chief. Chief sees everyone in Silver Team go down, so he needs to act quickly. He returns to battle, but he also asks Cortana to take over his body so she can retrieve the artifact and save the team. At first, Cortana refuses, but Chief walks onto the battlefield defenseless before falling to the ground and then being punted by Atriox into a wall, so Cortana isn't in a position to refuse. Chief's body rises again, taking out two grunts barehanded and then dual-wielding their plasma pistols to send the Covenant to their graves. Cortana controls the Pelican, flying it over Atriox, leaving explosions behind, killing Atriox. Vanek picks up an injured Riz, and Kai makes her way to the ship when she looks back to see Chief reaching for the keystone. Kai calls out to Chief, telling him to stop, but Chief picks up the keystone with ease. Kai is surprised, but continues to move toward the Pelican. On the ship, Vanek and Kai try to dress Riz's huge chest burn, but they don't seem to be helping. Chief pulls out a tube from the ship and makes a makeshift blowtorch to cauterize her wound, leaving Riz screaming in pain. Without a word, Chief then goes to pilot the ship back to base. Before the scene closes, marking the longest period of time Master Chief has kept his helmet on, mind you, Kai asks if he's John. Master Chief looks at her and then looks away. Halsey's voiceover kicks in as we see her, the real her, as far as we know, alive and well on some other planet. She makes some notes on her notepad before walking away. Oh my gosh, what an ending. We deserved it after the events of the last 3 episodes. I'm glad I revisited the show because I don't hate it as much as I initially did. It has so many flaws, but it also has some very great moments that can still be capitalized on. The big question that remains, what will Master Chief be like in Season 2? Master Chief isn't the silent protagonist the ending made him out to be. How will he connect to Silver Team? How will Halsey continue to impact the show? She's my favorite character because of her impact and her bluntness. If she's not in Season 2, someone needs to take that role, and right now, I don't think anyone is poised to do that. How will Quan continue to be important? There was so much interest put on her and Madrigal, but how is that important to finding the ring? Will Soren come back? And what did the Covenant do now that they've lost everything? The writers definitely have a lot to answer for, so we'll see how they handle such a big task next season. I hope everyone enjoyed the series, and if you did, make sure to hit some of those buttons down below. What do you guys want to see from me next? Please let me know in the comment section. I truly appreciate the support for this series, and I hope you'll join me for the next one. Now there's only one thing left to do now. How do I take off this helmet? Is it this button? Maybe it's this. How about this one? Oh, wait, no.